But first here's Ted with a Bentley Turbo R.
At one time, the name Bentley was synonymous with high performance, especially during the late 1920s and early 30s when it won the 24-hour endurance Le Mans race a record 5 times.
Rolls-Royce bought Bentley in 1932, and it was mega luxury from then on. However, the company has never forgotten its performance roots and has, over the years, set numerous speed and endurance records. These days, the Bentley Turbo R stands out as the quintessential British high-performance luxury sedan. When you consider the size of this car, over 2.5 tons, and what it can do, it's nothing short of remarkable. This is a huge automobile with an overall length of over 17 feet and a 10-foot wheelbase. That's almost as long as 2 Honda Civics stacked end-to-end. Nonetheless, its turbocharged 6.7-liter V8 engine has enough power to send it to 100 kilometers an hour in just over 6 seconds, with a top speed over 130 miles an hour. A 3-speed automatic transmission is the only choice. And price, as if it matters, is $260,000 even. Whether or not it's worth that kind of money is a question only your banker can answer. But the car itself is bristling with luxury features and conveniences. For example, it has twin vanity mirrors, each one of which has its own light switch. The stereo system has 10 speakers, and the company claims that you could drive from the Arctic Circle to the equator and not have to adjust the climate control system. I'll have to try that sometime. The front bucket seats have their own facsimile type adjustments with 4-position memory. The leather upholstery is Connolly, 11 cows worth. And the walnut burr dashboard and waist rails may be the most beautifully finished I've ever seen. The gear shift lever works electronically and activates the transmission by electric impulse as opposed to cables or rods. It even has 2 different horns. Press this switch and you get to choose from Bentley's own or a Maserati type air horn. And, as seems to be the case with many ultra-expensive cars, you get a toolkit and spare light bulbs. The Bentley Turbo R is the only car I've ever driven that has instructions in English, French, German, and Arabic. And Bentley is also quick to point out that the Turbo R is a driver's car with a 170-mile-an-hour speedometer, anti-locking brakes, and an automatic ride control system. The ride control system is particularly intriguing as it saves the Turbo R from being yet another luxury land yacht that wallows through turns and corners like a tugboat. Instead, this is a nimble, all things considered, extremely drivable sedan that has a surprisingly small turning radius and is an absolute joy on the highway. In fact, that's where it really comes into its own. You couldn't ask for a better long-distance cruiser than this one, and the fact that it's easy to drive around town is a bit of a bonus. On the downside, I found the body assembly to be less than perfect, particularly the seam between the hood and front grille. This is a $250,000 car after all, and customers have a right to expect better. I also consider this steering wheel to be one of the ugliest I've ever clapped eyes on. I realize it contains an airbag and has to be a little bulky, but surely they can do better than this. But what the hey, the people that buy the dozen or so of these cars that make their way into the country aren't interested in these kinds of trivialities. They're looking for prestige in its most blatant and obvious form. And viewed in that light, the Bentley Turbo R fills the bill splendidly. The Turbo R pretty much has this field all to itself. There really isn't much else that has the same combination of performance and snob appeal. But I suppose the Mercedes 560 SEL would have to be considered as a rival, as would the BMW 750iL, some Rolls-Royce models, and the other Bentley sedan, the Mulsanne.
A little on the pricey side, wouldn't you say, Tony?
You certainly look a toff in that one, Ted. This car is big and heavy. It's old-fashioned in some respects, but it's got unmatched status, let's face it. It also has awesome power. I can't believe the power of this thing. And it's very agile for its size.
Yeah, it was a real disappointment to me when we got in the back seat, because I opened the back door figuring, well, there'll be like a limousine back there, but I've honestly been in Honda Accords almost that have as much room in the back seat as this thing does. It was a real disappointment in how much sort of elbow room there was in the car, because this is a huge automobile.
Well, I don't know whether they still follow the old adage was that owner-drivers, people who wanted to drive themselves drive a Bentley, and if you wanted to sit in the back, you bought a Rolls-Royce, and maybe there's a bit more room in the back of a Rolls-Royce. I don't know, I haven't compared the two lately, but it's true, it's not as big inside as the exterior would have you believe.
No, and I also was quite amused by that toolkit. I mean, I just can't see the people that buy these cars performing spot repairs on the side of the road if something should go wrong. I don't know why they put a toolkit in there, but...
There's all these legends about people breaking down and having Bentley people flying by helicopter to fix them up, but...
well, that kind of money, they should do that.
They probably do, yeah.
The people that own them probably own... I'll bet you a helicopter costs the same as this, just now that you mention it.
Well, you know, Bentley and Rolls-Royce always used to say that their car cost about the same as a nice house at any given time. And if you think about it, they're not far off. even in these times. And whether you want to spend as much as a nice house and a car is one thing. I mean, the whole point of this car is that the price is neither here nor there, really, to me. I mean, there are people out there who can buy 6 of these or more, and they will. And as long as the world continues the way it is economically, there'll be customers for them.
I'm quite aware of that. When I drove the car and I complained about the fit and finish one, I know that the people that buy the cars, they couldn't care less about that as long as it's reliable. But is it reliable? I don't know. I mean, it's a British automobile. I know it costs a fortune, but there's no guarantees with these cars. And I've learned one thing over the years, that the more expensive the car, it doesn't mean it's going to be reliable.
Well, that's true, but they do keep their value well. You know, not too long ago, a British motoring magazine did a survey of what was the best buy for a company car in terms of value. And you know what the best was? A Rolls-Royce or a Bentley. Because you can keep it for 3 or 4 years in the company fleet, and it's worth what you paid for it when you finish. Name any car you can do that with.
Yeah, well, it impresses the hell out of your clients, too, when you pick them up at the airport.
Absolutely.
Anyway, to sum up, what don't we like about it? I think the price is ridiculous, but, you know, like we say, everybody can afford it. If you can afford to buy the car, the price doesn't matter. Body assembly, I thought, was a little, well, questionable, but there you go. Steering wheel was grotesque. They should have replaced it with a proper wood one or something. On the other hand, fit and finish is quite good, except for the body. Handling is surprisingly good for a car of this size. And performance, as Tony pointed out, is just phenomenal. As far as driving dollar value goes, I give it half a tank simply because who can afford to buy it?